Subnautica 2 keeps presenting us with impossible choices. Destroy the world tree, abandon humanity, or become something no longer human. But the deeper I looked into the game's lore, the more I realized something strange. None of these paths actually solve the real problem. And I think that's intentional. Because beneath all three storylines, the game may already be pointing toward a completely different ending. To understand what Subnautica 2 is really building toward, we need to understand the three women at the center of the story: Sophie, Nahema, and Anita. Each of them sees a different path forward, a path that directly contradicts the other two. And the scary part is, all of them are right in their own way, which also means all three of them are wrong. Sophie Boucher is the colony surgeon and one of the leading voices among the survivors. She approaches Proteus logically and scientifically. Sophie sees this world not as a miracle, but as a biological threat. The indigestible food, the toxic water, the Macefield syndrome. In her mind, all of it leads back to the world tree. Sophie becomes convinced that the tree itself is the source of the syndrome. In her eyes, adaptation is corruption. In her own words,
"People may tell you it's a gift. Ignore them. You know we can't trust alien biology."
To Sophie, Macefield syndrome is an existential threat to mankind itself. She believes humanity must survive at any cost, and survive as humanity. And so, Sophie arrives at a terrifying answer. The world tree must be destroyed. But she never considers the most dangerous possibility. What if she mistakes corruption for the natural state of the ecosystem? The message from the axiom to the architect says,
"The tree's roots feed the world, and the world feeds the trees."
The world tree is not a parasite feeding on Proteus, but the center of the entire ecosystem. She wants to save our species by protecting us from change, but in doing so, she may destroy the only thing capable of helping the colony survive at all. Nahema Nakota is an ecologist trapped inside Noah's death system. Unlike Sophie, Nahema doesn't have the luxury of believing the system can be fixed. For death workers like her, Noah was never really about saving humanity. It was about keeping the mission alive at any cost. Through the logs, we learn that Noah can endlessly reprint humans in order to continue the mission, not just once or twice, potentially forever. Workers can die, get reset, and be sent back to work again and again. To Nahema, that is not survival. It is slavery disguised as immortality. And eventually, she reaches a devastating conclusion. If we are not the last of humanity, then we have no reason to suffer in a hostile world. If the last and the best we can offer the universe is a gaggle of endangered servants ruled by a talking spreadsheet, better to end. Nahema is not trying to save humanity. She is trying to save what makes humanity worth saving in the first place: freedom, dignity, the right to choose your own future. And if preserving those things means the colony dies, then so be it. Anita Gottschall is the colony's purser and one of the survivors most deeply affected by the protovirus. Unlike Sophie, Anita doesn't see the moon as something the colony must resist. She sees it as something humanity must become part of, because discovers that the ecosystem is capable of changing humans.
We're so hungry. There is food all around us, but it's poison. Will you help? If I feed you, will you feed us?
The angel comb answers her call, providing the adaptation needed to digest local food. To Anita, this changes everything. Humanity doesn't survive by overcoming Proteus. Humanity survives because Proteus allows it. She creates Jubilee, and together they carry on by drinking from the water slugs, eating from what they scavenge, and sleeping in the air pockets. Anita comes to believe that the future of mankind is blind trust, not resisting or changing Proteus, but surrendering to it. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If your future depends entirely on an alien organism, are you still choosing this future yourself? And the last thing I want to talk about is the hint we receive in the observatory. The message tells us to find the webs and renew the trees with the original genes. But would simply restoring the old state really save the world? If the tree already lost this fight once before, what makes us think it will win this time? Proteus doesn't need to be rolled back, it needs something new. The tree has been trapped in the same genetic cycle for far too long, slowly collapsing under its own lack of diversity. The tree's roots feed the world, and the world feeds the trees. Life in Proteus survives through mutual exchange. I think humanity is meant to become a part of that exchange. Humans shouldn't just take adaptations from the tree, they should give something back in return. Humanity arrived on Proteus, carrying something the tree could never create on its own. Entirely new genetic information. New genes, new traits, new possibilities. And it will actually solve the major problems the characters had. Humanity and Proteus would finally become compatible, just as Sophie hoped. Anita will get her trumpet blast of freedom when all is forgiven, and by ending Noah's endless cycle of death and reprinting, humanity could finally remain free, just as Nahema wanted. But even this would come with a cost. The ecosystem would survive, but not as the same world it once was. Entire species may disappear, unable to adapt to what Proteus is becoming. And people would lose something too, because on Proteus, remaining fully human may simply be impossible. A true symbiosis, not coexistence through domination, but survival through mutual transformation. Up until this moment, the colony was only extracting from Proteus. It's time to give something valuable back. A good pet? Yeah, good boy, nice.